from Disney.
What if she is the one? The one who'll break the spell?
I want to help you. There must be some way to break the curse.
This beast is a threat to our very existence!
Rated PG. Now playing in 3D and IMAX.
Hello, everybody. It is Matt once again, and this time, the movie I'm here to talk to you about, obviously, you probably saw the title card, but it was Beauty and the Beast. I think like the fourth or fifth in Disney's basically remakes, doing live action adaptations of their classic cartoon movies. And unlike other ones that I've seen, I have to say this one was it was good. It was really good. There are a few things I had, that were problematic for me. But that's normally how things go. No movie is technically perfect. There's probably only a few of them that are perfect. But the one thing I will say about this movie, if you grew up watching the Disney Beauty and the Beast, it's going to feel really familiar to you. When the movie starts, it almost feels like a shot-for-shot remake. It does the pan into the town, and, Belle comes out of her front door, and she starts singing about the town and everything, and then eventually, that song morphs into the town talking about how she's such a peculiar girl and everything, and that it follows almost carbon copy from the cartoon. She's feeding a horse an apple, in between the dialogue's the same, like they talk to some other characters in the town between the singing of the song and everything, and it still works though. Like, I was kind of worried because, like, I think the last one of these I saw was Cinderella, and that one was it was okay. The person that played the stepmother and everything was great. Like, some of the cast was okay, but they made a lot of changes to it that didn't make sense. This one, the changes that they made were very subtle, and some of them made sense. They made the movie add a little bit more layers to things. One of the things that they added to this film that, for me, I didn't quite understand was they added a subplot where you figure out what happened to Belle's mother. Because, as you all know, like in Disney movies, there can't be two parents. There always has to be just one parent. But they put in a storyline to explain that. And, you find out it was the plague, and, it's there, like they explain it, and then it just kind of gets shoved back under the rug real quick. Like, it was kind of something that they weren't sure if they really needed to have in the movie, which, honestly, for me, you didn't really need to put it in there. That was one of the things to me that I just felt like kind of it padded out the runtime of the film. And if anything, it was to just kind of maybe give Belle and the Beast a little bit more of a moment where they bonded. But there were so many moments where they bonded well that it didn't really even need to be put into the film. But that, again, is just a minor complaint. The musical scores, they were fantastic. Since this is a musical and all, we must talk about the musical scores. They recreated a lot of the classic songs. The people, like Emma Watson and co. that sang these songs, they did great. The one thing I will say, though, is they did do the Beauty and the Beast song, as you would imagine would be in the film. But I still have kind of in my mind, the Angela Lansbury one, when she sang that, it was a little bit better than the one done for this film. But that's, again, you got your classics versus your remake, and in most people's minds, the classic is always going to be better. But, yeah, that's, again, minor complaint. But scores were all good. They added a couple songs in that weren't in the original. And they were well written enough that they kind of didn't stand out. It kind of felt like it molded into the rest of what you were watching. And by far, I think in the whole movie, the Be Our Guest segment was fantastic. Like, they took what the cartoon movie did and, like, times it by 100. Like, is so well done. The singing was so great, and, like, the CG that they did to make all the other inanimate objects come alive when they're trying to serve her dinner and everything, like, it was over the top. So, yeah, that was really good. And, I'm trying to think. With this movie, you have to talk about Gaston. The person they got to play Gaston, his name is, Luke Evans, I think. Yeah. He, if you can't put a face to the name, he was in Dracula, Untold, the Universal movie where they redid Dracula. And, he also played in the Hobbit movies. I can't remember his character. He was like the hunter type guy who lived in the town below Smaug. So he plays Gaston. And at first, when I heard that was announced, like when they were showing cast and everything, I was like, I don't really know if I could take him seriously as Gaston. Because he just doesn't have like that imposing look to him. And when you look at the cartoon, like Gaston's like this, beast of a man that, there's no way anybody could compare to him. And, the real life character of him that they did for the movie, like, there's people that are taller than him, and, he just looks like a normal guy. But the way he portrayed Gaston, he did a fantastic job. Like, you believed he was Gaston, and you kind of forgot he was Luke Edwards, every now and then. But, yeah, he did fine. I honestly, for what I thought was going to happen with it, he pulled it out of the box. He did really well. Now, with talking with this movie, we do have to address the one thing that kind of was painted all over this film before it even came out. There was the controversy of the dancing couple, the homosexual tendencies and, themes that were in the film. Now, I'm not going to lie. There are that kind of stuff in there. And part of me sometimes thinks like, Disney, I get it, but you do put a little bit of it in too much. But it's subtle enough that, it's nothing. It's not a big deal, people. I mean, people like Russia was not going to show this film. There were some theaters in, I think it was like Alabama. There was one that said they absolutely refused to show it because of this. And I don't get it. At this point in time, like, it's old hat now. Like, we shouldn't be getting so offended by this kind of stuff. And, I don't want to go into that kind of thing, but the gestures and things that were in the film was not anything to make you think that it's going to try and turn your child homosexual. It's ridiculous. Like, everybody was up in arms because there was a dance sequence where two men were seen dancing. It was on the screen for not even a second. It was like a blip and it was gone. And there was one other scene earlier in the film from that where the wardrobe attacks three people that are trying to come into the castle. And she dresses them up like women. And, the two run away. The two of the three run away because they're scared. A wardrobe just spewed clothes out at them. And the one just kind of looked at it and smiled and then walked away, like, gingerly, like. And that one, to me, like, I had a little bit more of a chill out of that than seeing the two men dance, just because the guy's facial expression. But that's just, I took it in a comedic manner. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with this movie as far as that goes. It doesn't hurt it. It doesn't, it doesn't add to it. It's just there. It's nothing to get worked up over. One thing I will say, moving on from that, we'll go into some other stuff now that we got that out of the way. The Beast in this film. How do you talk about Beauty and the Beast without talking about the Beast? The gentleman that they got to play the Beast did a fantastic job. The voiceover work that they did with the Beast, because they did audio manipulation to make him sound deeper and more, like a beast, obviously. But they did really well with that. Every time he spoke, his voice commanded, it took over the screen. And, the motion capturing nowadays is so good. Like, you see expression in the beast's face, and, you actually, unlike the cartoon movie, you kind of can get a little bit more of a connection because you feel bad for the guy. Like, when he starts coming around and he's opening up to Belle and everything about, like what he did in the past and how he feels about her and everything, like, you really feel it in this movie. Like, you kind of felt it in the cartoon, but like this one, like, I guess it's just because the expressions and the acting between Emma Watson and the Beast were done so well. Like, the weight of the situation is more heavy and it can be felt better. So yeah, like, they did great with that. The one thing I will say is, I remember back when the cartoon was out, one of the things that a lot of people were upset about was when, like, the Beast turned back into the prince. They're like, oh, he just kind of looks weird, because, and all the other Disney princes before him, like, they all had this nice, like, well, except I guess maybe the Sleeping Beauty one, he looked kind of effeminate, but they all had this kind of stoic look to them, and, they look like a prince, like this really handsome person and all that, and the Beauty and the Beast prince just kind of looked like just this dude, like, he just looked like this overly effeminate dude that couldn't rule a kingdom if, he was paid to do it, which that's their job, but, they kind of kept that tradition in this, cause like, when they had the scene where the Beast changes, and you finally get to see him in human form, like, you kind of saw him in the beginning, but they painted his face, so you didn't get to see it all. You finally see him and you're just like, wow, you are actually the human equivalent to what you look like in the cartoon. Like, they couldn't find a person that looked more like that cartoon than this guy. And I honestly could not take him, like, that was one of the things that brought it down for me, was the ending, because I could not take him as a prince or even a love interest because he looked too goofy to me. And there's even a part in the end, like, when they're having, I guess what it was, their wedding or whatever, they're dancing and Belle's like, how do you feel about growing a beard? And he just kind of laughs, and I'm like, no, it's because she wants you to look more like a manly dude, because you were a freaking beast that fought wolves and everything, and now you're this, like, effeminate dude. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of funny, that it held that tradition up. And, I always thought that was one of the things from the original Beauty and the Beast I always thought was really funny. So let's get into the supporting cast now. What is Beauty and the Beast without, Cogsworth and Lumiere and, Chip and Mrs. Potts and all them? Like, Ewan McGregor plays Lumiere. And, I'm sorry if I stuttered. I was trying to get Ewan McGregor's name into my head. But he plays Lumiere. And, when he's actually the candlestick, the candelabra, and he does the voice, he almost sounds exactly like Lumiere did in the cartoon. Like, he does a really good, overly expressive French accent kind of thing. And it worked perfectly. And, now I'm trying to remember who did Cogsworth. Ian McKellen, thank you. Woo. that one, I hate when I have to try and remember, actors' names, because that's, for some reason, that's somewhere that I fail so bad with sometimes. But, yeah, he plays, Cogsworth, and, like, when it's just Cogsworth, like, listening to the voice, I kind of thought it was him, but I couldn't quite exactly pin it. And then, when they change back into human form and you see him, I was like, yes, that is him. And he looks goofy as hell dressed up like Cogsworth, because they had the powdered wig on him and they put, like, this overly ridiculous, like, mustache on his face. It was like this huge black mustache. And he, like, he looks goofy. And, there was a female character that also was an object in the house that, like, really liked him. and like she gets turned back into human. She's like, "Oh my God, it's you!" And she's like running up to him, and he just has this look on his face, like, well, I think he even says, he's like, can I get turned back into a clock again?" Or, you know, something along those lines. And it was pretty funny. But he did a really good voice acting job. Cogsworth, to me, besides Lumiere, they were like my two favorite, like, supporting actors in the whole thing. I'm trying to think of other supporting actors that have note. Belle's father did a really good job. You know, he was there to do what he did to move the story along, but, he did a really good job, and I honestly, forgive me, I cannot remember the actor's name, but he's a good actor too. I just can't remember his name right now. And then you had, and I also don't remember this gentleman's name either, but you had the guy who played Gaston's sidekick, and he was hilarious. He was really good. LeFou, that's his character name. He was really good. You could see it in his face. He was infatuated, you know, his face and his mannerism. He's infatuated with Gaston because he wants to be Gaston so bad. He wants to be near Gaston as much as he can. He'd do anything for him. And Gaston, like, just keeps him around, you know, and you see that he keeps him around just because he wants that sidekick that worships him. But he, in return, really doesn't want anything really to do with him. So that, I thought it was pretty good. It was a nice mix. They did, like, the casting they did worked really well for LeFou's character from the cartoon to this. And, you know, in the end, LeFou has his thing where he turns around and helps out the good guys. So he was a really good character, and, you rooted for the guy throughout the whole thing. So it was fantastic. So if I was to give this movie a rating, out of 10, I'd probably give it like an 8.5 to possibly even a 9. It was really good. Like, I know a lot of people lately, when they hear, you know, the Disney live action films, that they're like, oh crap, you know, they think back to like Maleficent or Cinderella, like I mentioned earlier, or I can't remember the other one that came out earlier in the year, but yeah, they think about those and they're kind of like, oh crap, these weren't that great. And this one is probably the best so far. I have not yet seen The Jungle Book. I keep getting told by a lot of people to see it. So I'll probably watch that one sometime soon. But to me, right now, with what I've seen, Beauty and the Beast is the best Disney movie out there. Like I said, 8.5 to 9. It's really good. You know, it's safe for your kids. You know, if you want to re-see your favorite, you know, if you want to re-see Beauty and the Beast, and if it was like your favorite cartoon back then in the day, you're going to love it now, and your kids will also love it. So take them all out. It's good for the family. And I think that'll about do this episode, guys. So thank you so much for listening. Please share this around. Share it around. And, you know, tell me your thoughts on the movie on our Facebook page at Grinded Word, Facebook.com/Grinded Word. And I will see you guys in the next review. Thanks. Bye.